Welcome to Black Belt Beauty Radio, a podcast fueled by a passion to support your journey in developing your most beautiful and optimal performance in life. Each episode is driven with the intention to elevate your mind. When we elevate our mind, we elevate our life. So get ready. It's time to rise. Oh my gosh. Alison, I love you. I'm so excited to bring you back. Episode 1 with you, which has already been a couple years ago now and wasn't video. So it's just so rad to have you on video. That talk was so good. We got so much great feedback. So outside of me just wanting to be in space with you, one of my dearest girls, you know, there really is, there's a lot of important reasons to have your voice with your area of expertise, like on loudspeaker right now with what is going on in the world, but specifically, you know, even in our country, in America, with all of, you know, the health issues that are going on. So I know I just kind of dropped us in deep. Boom. But
no pressure.
Yeah, yeah. So it's just, you know, it's important because, you know, there's just look, this podcast, what am I all about? I'm all about like helping you rise into your fullest potential, you know, to thrive in life, to be your greatest self. And a lot of times, you know, there's such a deep focus on mindset, but you know me and my community knows me. It's like, well, no, it's a holistic thing, right? Because if you're having health issues, I don't care how strong your mindset is, it's actually affecting you. It's not allowing your mindset to support you at the highest level. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. If you have brain fog, if your mood is affected by things, you're dealing with like blood sugar imbalance issues, you know, it's hard to think straight and show up as you in the world. And that's what I see a lot of with the community and, you know, my clients is just like, I just want to feel like me, no matter what symptoms, whatever issues someone's going through. It's like, that's at the crux of it, is like, I just want to feel like me again. And I don't, and that's really scary. That's sucky. So yeah, I agree. I love the mindset and like personal development type stuff that you are always bringing to the audience, and that I've, you know, it definitely overlap with you on in my own healing journey, because it is a big part of it, right? To be able to frame everything that we do in the choices we make and why we make them, and, you know, consistency and all these like critical things. But I just find that when at a physiological level, our gut is impaired, our gut brain connection is just like struggle bus, right? to kind of think of like, I'll always hear like, go with your gut, or like tune into your gut, or what is your heart telling you? And I think when you're so disconnected from that because you're not feeling well, or you're symptomatic, or there's just mystery things going on, it's not that easy. I would hear that and I would freeze up like, oh my God, something's wrong with me. I can't connect into that. I don't know. So yeah, I think that it is such a big piece to your world and everything that you're always empowering your audience with, because it can only help fuel it even more.
I love that you say that, because I am one who's always talking about and really supporting my community to drop into heart. Heart is how I frame it. This is where your most authentic self lives, right? And then obviously pulling into gut too. It's like your intuitive self, heart, gut, intuitive self. So you were so right that it is not going to be easy to activate and to be able to hear and feel into these areas of self if there's issues going on. So before we get into like the hard, almost the issues, I want to actually ask you, what is inspiring you right now in your field?
What I'm feeling so happy about supporting people with and talking about is the gut-brain connection. But what really is that? So that's our nervous system. If you've heard of our vagus nerve, that is the nerve that's running from our brain stem. It's on two sides of our brain, running down into one side, right in the middle. And it's hitting everything along the way, on the way to our gut, essentially. And so our heart too, like just everything in between. And so learning, digging in and supporting people more on that piece, because I know, and we'll talk, like, I love food. I've started always with food. I have a cookbook, like it's always such a big piece of it. But when I see people overcorrect or get stuck there, that's where I like to zoom out and say, we need to talk about your nervous system state. We need to talk about what's called your vagal tone. I know you love this because you're, you know, my fitness, but also my fitness mama. I mean, just like any other muscle or body part, it's use it or lose it. And so when we live in a world where we're constantly stuck in fight, flight, or freeze state, we're in this sympathetic nervous system and we're not like using our vagus nerve appropriately, and we're struggling with digestive issues, with brain fog, food sensitivities, all these other things. You know, we need to bring back more tone. It's called vagal tone for that reason. We need to exercise it a lot more. So, you know, this is where a lot of the stuff that you talk about, meditation and all these great mindset techniques and, you know, gratitude journaling. Oh my God, your journal is amazing. I haven't even told you that. I ordered it and I love it. But things like that, it's absolutely helping your physical health too, right? Your brain is a physical thing, right? It is in your body. And so that's something that I'm loving, something that I love to kind of surprise people with, because I think they're just thinking I'm going to slap them with a meal plan and say, do this and be consistent. And I just know that that's tip of the iceberg. You know, at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, I love that. You really drop everyone in so much deeper. And the truth is, and I know this even in my own journey, it's like these are the real important starting points. It's before you get to the steak or the avocado, it is this component, you know, that makes such a difference. And specifically like the vagal tone, I love that you bring that up, because I'm right now working on really getting my HRV really like just a lot better, you know, because there's issues with that sometimes, you know. And for those who don't know, it's heart rate variability, and your vagal tone is connected to that. And this is how it's essentially a metric that's showing how your body recovers, right? And that's so important, because even if you know, turning it into back to gut issues, right? If you are not recovering well, so basically your body isn't, you know, taking you out of stress and then pulling you back into a state of recovery. I mean, can you talk about how that disrupts your gut alone?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you think of the nervous system, or the vagus nerve especially, as I like to think of it as a light switch essentially in the body. And if you think of on and off, so we have your parasympathetic nervous system state, also known as rest and digest. This is where we digest. This is where detox can happen, where healing and regeneration can happen. And then we have the other side of the switch, which is the sympathetic nervous system state. And that's the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. I recently learned. I can talk you through that a little bit more. But those are kind of the two main states. Of course, there's some gray areas. You know, it might not always be a hard and fast rule, but essentially, we want to be living a little bit more in the parasympathetic, in that rest and digest state, especially when we eat, especially at meal times, or when we're healing and recovering. But in general, I always like to say, because I think even last time we spoke, we talked a little bit about mindful eating. And that's something that I really like to bring into everything that I do, because again, it's like, it's not just what you eat, it's how and why you eat it too that matter. Because of this very fact. It's not woo-woo. It's not magical or mystical. It is literally, well, no. Either the switch is on or off to digest. Which is it? You know, if you are eating while you're distracted, you're driving, you're super rushed, you're scrolling your phone, just completely not paying attention and in a different state, well, it doesn't matter how beautiful that chicken kale salad is if you're not going to digest it, right? That's what I'm always trying to say. Because people always be like, but I eat well and I'm still bloated, constipated, blah, 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 like whatever, you know, whatever it is. And it's like, so maybe it's not just what you're eating then.
Yeah. And
we have to think about how you're eating, because so often, I always like to use this as an example too, when describing the nervous system and how critical it is to the gut brain and your digestion. If you've ever, like, hold up a hand, put down your finger. No, I'm just kidding. If you've ever been on like a nice beach vacation, or just think of your happy place that you've been to before, and you were sipping some coffee. Maybe you had a nice, beautiful spread of whatever food. I don't care what it is, healthy, not healthy, whatever you would deem that as. And you're just chilling and you were just so relaxed in that moment and you're eating. And maybe you notice like, oh, I'm not having any digestive issues. I'm not bloated at all. I'm not craving anything specific. I'm fine. I'm satiated. I'm happy. Everything's cool. I know I can think of so many times like that. I specifically, when I actually started picking up and learning more and more about mindful eating, I realized this in South Beach, Miami, of all places.
Love it.
Because I just recognized, I'm like, I'm not like on my diet per se here and I'm fine. Why is that?
Yeah.
And just kind of keying into that. And it's like, oh, well, I'm super relaxed. I'm not working. I'm not checking email, whatever it is. And that is the power of the nervous system right there, where it's like, well, because my switch was turned on, so maybe I could eat whatever or tolerate things a little bit differently, and digest a little bit better. So that's sort of the broad approach or answer to why that recovery, the rest is so critical, because simply put, that's where rest and digest happens, and detox. So if you're detoxing from something, our body's always detoxing. Just dropping some hints. If you're detoxing from something, but all day long, right? Our body's detoxing normally, but we want to make the space and support so that our body can do that effectively, because we do live in a very toxic world, and it has to take on a little extra responsibility than maybe it used to back in the day.
Oh yeah. You think?
Yeah, so that's the idea.
No, it's so, no. And I want to talk about that. No. And really just to kind of accentuate what you said, it's simple. When you're in fight or flight, it's a conflict of interest. We are designed not to be thinking about food at that time. We're designed to fucking run, to save our life, to any of that, right? So then, but that's not at all going to, this is where, unfortunately, the reality is that most people are living in that state and don't even realize it, because it's like the baseline norm now. And if, and it's
hustle culture, work hard, play hard.
Talk about that. Because I know you just threw something up on your Instagram the other day that I really loved about that. And it really, it's not helping anybody be healthy or get healthy.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a big problem. Thank you for saying that, because that's what I'll see sometimes people glaze over when I say fight or flight, like, oh, that's not me. Let's challenge that for a second. Maybe you're not this combative, frazzled, person all the time.
Yeah.
But that's kind of why I want to say, so it's fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. So fight. Okay. We know you're fighting. Maybe you are feeling more aggressive, moody, snapping at people, whatever it is. Flight, you're running from a situation. Maybe you're numbing, trying to get away from something. Freeze. This is where I see a lot of people that don't realize they're in fight or flight, is because they're actually frozen. They're, just kind of staying there, internalizing everything in their gut, having a lot of digestive symptoms simply because of that. Maybe emotionally eating, trying to cram it down. I don't want to feel, let me just kind of cram it down. And then we have fawn, which was a newer one to me. And this is being a doormat, not setting boundaries, people pleasing, because it never felt safe for you to say no. It never felt safe for you. I think, especially as women, be a good girl, do what people say, blah, blah, blah. And I think that mold has to be broken a little bit too, when we're like, wait a minute, why am I even saying yes to this? I don't want to take on more than I can handle. This is where we get burnout and adrenal fatigue and all these other issues too that transpire. So being in that state is absolutely rewarded, normalized in our culture, right? Work hard, play hard is something I definitely always heard in New York City, working, climbing the corporate ladder, right? You too. It's if you're an ambitious, hungry person, it can be really a slippery slope to not fall into that too much. It's really hard when we want what I want more. I want to do more. Or even if you're energized and love your work, there just has to be, okay, but I balance it out with time for me to be more in the parasympathetic state. And I also just want to say, you pointed out perfectly, the idea with the switch, right, on or off, you're either one or the other, is exactly what you said. When you're in danger or perceived danger, nowadays it's you're stuck in traffic, you're pissed off about an email, right? Maybe it's not an actual predator coming after you, I hope. But I always say that with a caveat, I don't know, maybe there is a tiger after you. But you know, if you are in that state, our body very intelligently, like it's not broken. This isn't a broken feature. This is a very intelligently designed feature of our body, is saying, shut everything else down. We're prioritizing you living and getting out of this situation.
Yep.
But how often do we want to be put in that situation?
Right.
You know, that's the key, because, you know, by the same respect, digestion and detox and recovery and all these other things, it's a very lengthy process. It takes a while to do. It's not just, oh, I put food in my mouth and maybe it comes out, or maybe it doesn't. You know, that's not it. No. It's all the time. Your body's sort of working on different things. And so it actually, you burn calories when you're digesting properly. That's how, you know, much energy it actually takes up. You can't do both. Like you said, you can't be running and digesting. Your body is very efficient. It will always look to prioritize things for you. And so this is where I think the mental toughness and resilience comes in, where it's like, well, we've got to make a call on what's a priority to us then.
Yeah, no, that's so good. And I love, you know, when we talk about mindful eating, I know you mentioned it in the last episode, but it needs to live in this one too. You know, it's personally for me, it's specifically around dinner. There's something around dinner that is extremely ritualistic and sacred to me. And look, if I'm out with friends or my family, like, of course I'm conversing, but if it's just me, I'm not on the phone. I don't want to be on the phone. I don't want to talk. I want to first love on my food, and I have a whole ritual of that. And it's this real check-in with me. And in my world, it's also the universe, like just checking in. So it's not even this conscious, like, okay, I'm going to breathe in and out, which totally, that's wonderful to do too. But it's literally taking Roxy yang energy, high performance mode that I've been working on the hours before, and bringing me down into yin, and bringing me down into this very present, centered space where I could be so focused on, you know, the pleasure and of being there with my food, and allowing this, what always feels like a gift to me personally, just to have this beautiful, especially because my fucking food, it's so romantic. It's like, it's just beautiful.
I love it.
I'm like, because here's the thing. I know that there's times where like I've had to be on the phone for something, and I'm like, ugh, and it bothers me because you can't, like you said, you can't really be focused on your food. And again, if you're having a pleasurable, you know, experience sharing the food with, like you in Miami, you know, that's different. But when you're talking and and you're eating, like, no. And we know science is showing that, like, that alone can give you gut permeability, like that stress that comes, stress period, which is everything that you just said. Moving forward, because there's something else that you talked about, you touched on that I really want to tease out with you is, you know, the toxin piece, because it's becoming more aware, like people are becoming more aware of the environmental toxins. So, which, I mean, there's endless toxins, you know, whether it's the plastic and now they're finding that in your lungs, to these artificial candles and plugins and, you know, the chemicals in your products,
your beauty products.
Holy shit. And again, like, we've become so used to these things that most don't realize the impact that they're actually having on your health until you start stepping away from it. And then, you know, when you have enough time and you've really like moved away from all that shit, like I walk into a room and there's a fucking Glade plugin or a candle that's synthetic, and girl,
oh my God, an Uber with those things. I'm like, I'm out.
I'm literally the dog out the window, like,
oh, it's the worst. It makes me so,
it's so hard. I'm like, it hits us harder. And
I'm never a Karen, but if I get into an Uber and it smells, I'm like, customer service, this is a no. This is an actual. I just can't with that. That's what I'm like.
I'm going to think of you every time that happens again. Well, and just for the record, I had Dr. G on before, and I fucking brought this up to him.
Oh my God, his podcast is a great source of that. He just posted something this week about pea protein, and I'm like, oh.
I know, I saw that. I know, which I'm gratefully a whey girl, but I used to be pea, but no, but I said to him, I'm like, look, I used to get shit from people, like close people, like, oh, you're so dramatic. Because I'd walk in a room and they'd have that and they're like, this is all like your head. I'm like, no, it's not. And he explained, actually, it's your immune system, because now your immune system is like, what the fuck is this? But most people—
and you're becoming like hyper aware to it now. Yeah.
And most people are just so used to it that their body is just now always in fight mode to that, but they don't realize that. And that's kind of what you touched on. Like when you're detoxing, you want to give your body the break to be able to do that. So can you just talk about environmental toxins and the impact on health, hormone health? It's a big.
I like to think, and here, okay, so let me start by saying this. And I kind of touched on it before, because I think when we get symptoms or illness or whatever, it's very much like, oh, my body's broken. Like, what now? Or even, I'm sure there might've been times that people tried to make you seem like you were so, like you said, you're so sensitive, like, oh, like we're weak or something.
Yes.
I like to really think of that as our superpower. We're like the canary in the coal mine to warn ahead of time, like, this is a problem, like red flag, I'm throwing it out. So I choose to look at it as like, because I know we'll probably touch on it, but like some mold issues that you've been farther along in dealing with that than I have. But of course it can feel like right away, like, oh my God, like, of course, now what? Or now, you know, I'm going through this, or this is bothering me and no one else seems to be bothered by it. And instead of feeling like, oh, she's such like a delicate little flower, I really just, again, I just like choose to see it as, this is my superpower. You can thank me later because you're going to benefit from it. And it's not like, oh, you know, a common thing with detox issues, right, is like skin issues, rashes, zits, you know, like things like that can be really annoying, or other various digestive symptoms and things like that. Whereas maybe when I was a kid, I was so annoyed by that, but now it's like, I can see like, thank you, body. You're trying so hard to get rid of all these toxins. And I can see like, oh, I need to love you up a little bit more. I need to pull it back on something's up. So I just want to invite everyone listening that if you've ever gone through that or feel annoyed by some of the symptoms, can we reframe it and, you know, take some aligned action based on that? And so that's a piece that I like to try and get to. And so the idea with toxins and talking about that is, think of the load on your body. Think of it as a cue, especially with your liver, for example. There's multiple detoxification pathways. Digestive, so having bowel movements, urine is part of it. So your kidneys and bladders are involved. What else? Lymphatic is so key. And that's kind of like, it's not the prettiest way to describe it, but it's like a sewage system running throughout your whole body. And movement and sweat really need to happen for this to be released, because there's really not a lot of ways else for it to be released. So that's what's so great about exercise and just frequent movement throughout the day. Maybe you do a standing desk, maybe you keep going to refill your water, like just a little bit more frequency, sauna, things like that, things to get you sweat. And then liver is super powerful too. Also, actually breathing. So respiratory. So even that is really powerful when you're doing breathing exercises and breathing into your gut and all that stuff. But so especially with liver, it is responsible for so much. Like we ask so much of our liver. I think, what is it, over 300 functions that it has, something like that. And when we live in a toxic world, like, okay, our body's resilient. It can handle a lot. It can really handle a lot. And that's the other beautiful thing is like, let's not think that we're so sensitive that can't handle anything. It is actually handling so much more than you even know. Let's be a little more humble and in awe of it and say, okay, well, something I did, I filled the bucket too much. As we always say in like nutritional therapy, is like, it's kind of like filling up a bucket throughout the day and years that you've been on this planet. It's still the same body you've had. So it's still accumulating. And so the idea is, when the toxin load is just too heavy, that's when we especially start to see like, okay, now the queue is overloaded. You're asking way too much of all the detoxification pathways, but especially that liver. It's working too hard. And now things are becoming backed up. We're having illness. We're having symptoms, skin irritation is kind of what I always sort of think about. But it goes beyond that. And so brain fog, like all these other things. Yes.
Breathing,
absolutely.
asthma, sinuses.
Oh my God. Yes.
Shit.
All those things, the allergies, histamine issues, like all these other things. And it's like, again, it's just like stress on the body. So this is where I just start to say, instead of feeling overwhelmed, like, oh my goodness, I have to replace everything, or I have to throw out everything. And it's like, let's start with, like, when it comes to home cleaning products, beauty products, things you're inhaling, things you're, absorbing topically, of course, our food. But let's start to think of orders of sort of priority that maybe you use them as things run out. Maybe you start to check out like ewg.org or Roxy. I don't know if you have any other favorites that you like to share on that stuff, but when you're investigating what products to buy, and stuff like that, and kind of take it from there, because I know personally, it wasn't going to be like, oh, I get rid of everything. No. And too, being so picky with products, it's like, I don't know what's going to work for me. I'm not going to just go buy a bunch of new foundation and mascara and all, whatever it is. I got to like test things out. Yeah. So it's going to be a process, but it will make a difference. And especially, for the ladies out there for hormones, we've got a lot of them, and we live in a very estrogenic sort of world where these things, these plastics, these, like you said, finding in your lungs, like all these crazy things that mimic estrogen and then throw our hormones out of balance too. So that's kind of the other big issue, messing with whether it's fertility or just general.
Do you see that a lot with your clients in your practice? Yeah,
for sure.
And they're probably not even aware of it necessarily, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I think what's interesting, and kind of to the way you introduced our talk and saying how important it is, I think one of the issues that I'm seeing a lot with people is information overload. We're sort of subscribed or following, like hitting the follow button on everything, it's so much information. And especially with diet, people will come to me and they're like, well, like they make a good argument for vegan and they make a good argument for carnivore. Like, what do I do?
Right.
You will find an opposing argument to everything. There's so much information out there. And so what I like to do is the same thing that you like to do, is get people in touch with, what did you say? Authentic self. You say authentic self. Sometimes, higher self, future self, whatever it is. That's the idea that I always try to say to people, is like, I'm not the guru or expert. I will bring you my knowledge. I will bring you what I've seen work, and all the support in the world. But ultimately, the best thing any of us, like you do for your audience, that I can do for anyone, is to say your body is actually the expert. You're the expert, that authentic self. And if you can tune into that and stop going outward and just following every single person on Instagram. Yeah. And like overwhelming yourself, the more you can just know how to check in and say, oh, this is what works. It's right in front of me.
Right.
It's actually right in front of me. My body is actually telling me all the time.
Right.
When you cultivate that different relationship and you're communicating with your body that way, looking at symptoms is like, oh, these are messengers. I don't have to be upset every single time.
I love
I think that's part of it. And that's what makes it different.
Such a great reframe. And I'm so with you. Obviously, everything for me is like, don't run out, run in. Not to say that there isn't value in gaining, important, high quality, information out there, but you don't want to just be a library. You need application. You need to put things into action. And the only way to really do that is to empower yourself to get into action. And that's one thing that I love about you. I mean, just as a whole in your entire business and all your messaging, everything you share, whether it's the food, the health, everything, is you are very practical, and you are very, like I have a statement I always say, like, inches make the mile. So it's not this one big overhaul. It's, hey, why don't we start with this piece and then that piece, and like little by little by little, because and I know that any real long standing change, or even anything great to accomplish in life, it's not this one big move. It's the small, keyword here, consistent moves that make the big picture. And the coolest thing is, like, when you get into that mode of operation, you get to keep what you actually are doing. Meaning, like, you're not yo-yo dieting. Okay. Yes. You're not like fit for a summer and then fucking overweight for the, no, you own the gains because you did it, consistently. You did it hopefully with compassion. I love that's such an important piece. And even that, like, just listening to you, I'm sure so many pick up on it. Like, you were very, very, you're so good at, being empathetic and compassionate too. And obviously, and if you want to, talk about this, because you have been and still are like, but you've healed yourself. You had Hashimoto's, it went into remission. I don't know where it's at now, but like, you've basically had to deal with a lot of health issues yourself. So you've been in the trenches with yourself, and the difference when you're being an asshole to yourself or when you're actually being loving and compassionate to help you get through the journey. So if you want to talk about that, because I'll say this, I know, because I hear it from women, how and I'm not just women, but just in my practice, like with coaching and mentoring, but you're so mean to yourself. And I'm like, girl, you're already going through it. Can you please talk to your body with fucking love and respect? Because your body is trying hard right now for you. And you feeling this way about it while it's like, help, I'm hurting, is not you being on your team. And it's getting you further away from, and I know I'm on a rant right now, but it's a good one. Thank you. Love you. Something clicks a lot of times, I've noticed with women with me, because they see this strong fucking, like edgy
badass
woman. Thank you. Which is like super. And I'm like, but at the same time, I'm like, hold up. Like, can you fucking love on yourself?
No, but that's what I love is it's not a no pain, no gain kind of, garbage that we probably all grew up with seeing, right? Is like, it's no, I did this through loving myself, by the way. Exactly. That's what I love about you. And when you're always showing that in your affirmation, it's like, come on, queens, like my favorite thing ever. I'm like, yeah, like you're like your own hype woman, basically. And that is the best thing. Yes. I love that. And I think I used to, when I was younger, see people with that kind of confidence or, I'm like obsessed with myself kind of thing. And be triggered by it, like, oh, must be nice, like blah, blah, because I was not used to speaking to myself that way. And then I think I had to, per your, like you said, I've been through it. And that's why I can be so compassionate, because I know some days it's like, you know what, this just sucks. And that's what it is today. And we are all going to have days like that. And it's better to obviously like acknowledge it and let it come out versus just like cramming it in. But the idea is, well, what do we do with that now? Do we want to just sit with that? Or do we want to move forward and see how this is actually working for us in our favor, how this is helping us? Like, I'm thankful for Hashimoto's. It changed my entire life. Pain makes you pay attention, baby, right? Like pain is there to make you pay attention. And that's what it did. It got my attention. Nothing else would. I'm type A, if you can't tell, like perfectionist, like that's what I come from. And so talking to myself lovingly was not really a thing. It was like, do better next time. Why didn't you get the A+? Why didn't you get the full on promotion? Like all those little things were kind of also leading me towards my illness, because I was in that hustle culture, perfectionist. Like nothing was going to convince me that that was not the right way to do things. Yeah. Until I got sick. Yeah. So thank you, body. Thank you, Hashimoto's. You taught me a lesson that would I have rather learned it, at age 40 with a fatal heart attack. Yeah. My mother had a heart attack, which is not fatal, thank God. Yeah. She's still around, but she did have a heart attack at a very young age. Yeah. And it was obviously very serious. And it's like, did I want to go down that path, or would I rather have paid attention sooner? So nothing was going to shake me out of that. So again, I think this is why I have started to cultivate a loving relationship towards symptoms and being more in awe of my body versus you're broken, I need to fix you, I need to work you harder, because I did that and that didn't work. And that actually was my demise a little bit, right? And so being able to come to grips with that and zoom out and really see like, no, actually Hashimoto's is working for me. And I'm thankful for it. And that's the difference. That's the choice that I now make. So it changed everything. My perception on that also, if you had told me that when I was losing all my hair, that I would eventually be thankful for that experience. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's like, when I would look in the mirror and I'm like, I don't know who you are. My body is betraying me. I don't know what's going on. It's like, everything is rattled. You're questioning everything. You can't focus. Like, you're sick and you're just like, nothing's working. And that was really hard. And so of course, when I see women, it's like, I just want to hug you and tell you everything's going to be okay. But this is the part of it. Like, use your health as your personal development too, because it's kind of right. It's like that personal development coming, knocking at your door in the physical world to say like, this is what you need to pay attention to. And I'm going to make it hurt until you pay attention, until you get it. So good. That's my experience. That's so good. There's something else that I want to talk about with you specifically and have live in this conversation. That's outside of, everything we've been talking about, but it really does work in this whole holistic health conversation, and really way of living. And that is, your relationships, your, who
who your closest are, who you're engaging with, and what that energy is actually, how that's impacting you and your health. And I'm going to just take the opportunity here to say, even since, the first time you came on the show, which was a couple years ago, to now, you and I have really developed such a solid friendship. Like, you are my girl, and we have like every conversation is the best conversation. All of it is so rich and meaningful. You are a fucking, listen, you juggle a lot. You're a mommy, you're a wife, you are an entrepreneur with, multiple, avenues of business. I mean, you've put out a cookbook, you started a membership, you still do your one-on-one coaching. So like, so much is you go, girl, you're building. And it's so fun because, I'm an entrepreneur as well. And there's some crossover and similarities in certain areas of our business, obviously in our lifestyle. And so, when we get into conversation, it's just, number one, it's so full of love and respect and support. And it's so rad because we literally, there's such genuine care for each other. Like, I want you to fucking win. I know you want me to win.
Amen.
And we are like, whatever we can do to support each other in every way. And you have just been you've been that girl to me. That's what we do. Yeah. And can you talk about the importance of that even? Because you could be this, woman like doing all the things, like you're eating the foods and you're moving and but like you got some toxic relationship, or you just don't have those loving, supportive relationships, and that could be impacting your health as well. So I'd love for you to talk on this subject as well.
Absolutely. And I think that's why I love the idea of community. And so I know with your, like the queendom, I love that too, because it's like the idea of normalizing this new lifestyle that you're shifting towards that maybe you didn't come from, or maybe the people around you don't have to adopt. And so this is something that I always say to my clients. So what I'm doing a lot of these days right now is it's a one-on-one small group hybrid program, because it's just the best of everything. You get the best of it, like everything tailored to you one-on-one, but you also have your girls, essentially like what you're kind of describing, where it's like you have your people who are also making these shifts. It's also challenging. They're also having similar thoughts of like, what the hell, all this stuff kind of happening, because even though our family and friends love us and they want us to do well and be happy, they're not making the same lifestyle shifts. Yeah. They're not eating differently. They don't get why you walk into a room with a Glade plug-in and you're having a freak out, like they don't get it. And so I think what I see, and I'm sure you see this too, is when we're kind of like these lone wolves, and we don't have the friends, the community, the whatever to normalize that and say, no, this is okay to be this way. When we don't have that, it's really easy to fall back into those older habits. It's easy to question ourselves and say, well, maybe I am too sensitive. Maybe I should just get over it and suck it up, or, stuff like that. And I know you're here to say it too. It's like, no. I think it is better when you can find your people and build that community so that you don't feel alone. Didn't they always say like being banished was the worst thing, right? Like, well, it's just how long ago, right? Primal survival. Yes. You need other people, no matter how much of a Zoom world we're living in. You need other people. You need to know that you're not alone and that you are accepted and validated and loved in some way, so that you don't feel like, oh my God, I have to go it all alone. And that's what I would always see. It's like, it didn't matter how many, amazing one-on-one sessions, just only one-on-one, blah, blah. It always came down to, I have a birthday this weekend. I don't know how to deal with this. I'm going on vacation. I don't know how, no one else, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to be that person.
Holidays. Ordering. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And it's like, this as a coach, you could be their biggest hype woman. You can be, their biggest, like, no, you got this. What are you talking about? Every tool. And still they're like, and it's just like not happening. And you're like, okay, because we need to bring in your community, people that are also doing this. And so long story short, I'm sure that fueled you. That absolutely fuels me between business and absolutely in personal relationships. Another, really good friend of mine that I know you have too is Dr. Emily Kyberd.
Yes.
And she also is just like Hashimoto's mom and entrepreneur. And it's just so nice because when you have more and more people that it's like, we eat pretty similarly. We're speaking the similar language. We're not embarrassed to admit that, we have mold in our house or You know what I'm saying? Like we say that and someone actually gets and they're like, oh shit, I got a number for you to call. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh good. You know, my people,
mold
that
sisters.
is everything. Yeah, literally hashtag mold sisters. We were texting the other day. Yes. So it's like, that is everything. And that gives you the confidence to go on truly, because it's like, okay, like me telling my husband, I'm like, yeah, we need to spend how much money to get a mold test and remediation. And he's like, wow, what's going on? And so I called up Roxy, I called up my friend, and they're like, you have to, there's no other thing. This is what you have to do. Don't. And I'm like, you're right.
So
you're right. How could I ever question it? You're so right. And it's so helpful. So yes, you have to find your people. It's very important to your success, I think.
I love that. And you know, it's so good.
It's so raw and real. It's so real.
It is so real. I mean, that's another million reason why I love you, because you are so real. And it's, you know, it is, you know, there's a statement that you don't need, I love this quote, like you don't need a community to survive, but you need a community to thrive. And that,
so
I know that you see that in your business. I certainly see it in my own. And it just feels better just to have. So whether that's like, again, like your personal circle and your, you know, personal community, or, you know, in business to be, you know, in your situation, like with your clients, like you provide them this epic community of women who are doing the thing too. And it's so important, because that is all energy that helps to fortify and to expand. And you don't have to do it on your own. I mean, listen, back in the fucking day when I was really making shifts in my diet, and, you know, fortunately for me, there's this gene in me that's like, I don't give a fuck what you think over what I think. Does that mean that I didn't have to take shit? Does that mean, meaning like I'm at the dinner table and I'm like, sorry, I know that your grandma made that and it's a holiday, but I'm not going to eat it because I don't do gluten or whatever, you know?
Right.
But I know that I'm like the 1% and I get it, because it's not easy. So I just, I love that. I love that you've created that for your girls. And talk to me about your cookbook, because it is so gorgeous. And we haven't done it yet, but it's so going to happen where I'm actually going to be at your dinner table. And I can't wait, because girl, literally for everyone, I mean, obviously this is in the show notes and everything, and like, we'll do that whole conversation, but like your Instagram is just like, it's not just, oh, I get hungry when I see your food, but I actually feel nourished.
You like go to the refrigerator. Yeah. No, I love that. I came to this, and one of the reasons I was, you know, kind of counting my blessings and showing gratitude for my health changes and all this stuff is because I didn't know how to cook very well back in the day. I was not very well practiced. Yeah. I mean, here's what I will say. My mom's Puerto Rican, and any person with any Caribbean descent knows you have to season meat. Yes. You have to season it. You have to overnight, like season it for as many hours as possible. So that is my joke that like all my like childhood friends knows, like, oh, what, you have to go right home after school. You have to season meat. And I'm like, yeah, I do. We're making chicken legs. What do you want from me? My mom works. I have to put Goya adobo on everything. And that was my life. So that was as close as it really came to me cooking. So it was something, but I wasn't like this super confident, whatever.
Yeah.
Cook and knowing all the things. There was a lot of takeout. There's a lot of standard American diet eating, especially like in college. I think I ate Easy Mac for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Like, I don't even know. It was so bad. It was so bad. So when I was like, you know, working and ordering Thai takeout and sushi as my like main staples of eating in my 20s, and then everything hit the fan, suddenly it's like, oh, we're watching Food Network a lot. Like my then boyfriend, now husband, and we're, you know, learning lots of ways to cook and eat healthy. And what's a butternut squash? What is this like foreign thing to me? Like, I'm going to learn how to cook it, you know? So I was always so grateful that, hey, look at all the shifts like that I've made and skills that I've sort of had to learn through survival, but it was a nice thing. And so that's how my food blog was really started. It was kind of before any of, you know, a lot of this, because that was the beginning on a lot of people's journeys. Like, well, I got to change my diet.
Yeah.
So anyway, the cookbook I love because it is a culmination of everything that I've been through personally, that I help my clients with professionally, that, you know, my blog baby has sort of turned into. So in there, you'll learn a lot more about just gut healing in general. And from this very lovingly blunt, simplistic place of like, it is a lifestyle shift. I like exactly what you said. It's like, this is not the quick fix it perfectionist thing you're going to like to do. It's not going to be a 30-day reset.
Yeah.
It's going to be, these are the shifts we need to all get to if we want to have a more gut healthy lifestyle. And gut health is everything, baby. I mean, that's 70 to 80% of your immune system is in your gut. That's where you're going to get the most bang for your buck supporting when it comes to health. So you will get all that information in there. 75 recipes are all paleo friendly.
Paleo gut health. Yeah. And also just to say too, this is another thing that I love is that, you know, going back to the statement of you're a mom, you're a wife, you're an entrepreneur with multiple, facets of business. You don't have all this time to just be like chefing it up.
Chef Boyardee, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, but your meals are so gourmet. So I know, because I know personally, because I've been connected to you and your recipes and your food for so long, but like you do such an excellent job of helping an individual navigate the kitchen and cooking, making their food, these really nutritious, nourishing foods without it being this huge, massive production. That most
or
people
super
don't.
boring. I like it to be somewhere in the middle.
Girl,
where it's like,
nothing about you could ever fucking be boring. Like,
look, I'll be honest. Like, I basically had ground meat and broccoli for lunch today. Like, there are plenty of like boring meals in my life, but they're nourishing, they're balanced, whatever. But I like food. Come on. Like you're a city girl too. I used to go to all the restaurants in New York City. Like that was my favorite thing to do. I sometimes admit this. I used to be like a Yelp elite. So I was very much like reviewing all these restaurants like a total nerd. And, you know, I like my food. So that's kind of the mix in the cookbook. It's like really easy throw together stuff, but I also try to recreate our favorites. Cause that's the other thing that I think we miss a lot is like, we miss grandma's cooking sometimes. We miss the carbs. We miss
you want that
like,
comfort
meal.
Yeah.
So just making it paleo friendly, I'm a little cheeky. I found some creative ways to make like dairy-free cheese out of cauliflower, you know, like just things like that.
Yeah. No, it's so good. It's so helpful because a lot of people don't, I mean, we're learning more and more, but I know in my own life when people are like, you can use almond yogurt to make that cream over your ground beef. Yeah, you can. So it's, you do such a good job with your recipes in opening up the minds to say like, wait, I didn't even know that I can, swap that for that.
Yes.
Yeah. So good. Okay. So is there anything that we didn't speak about in this, another just epic conversation with you? That
we got a lot of good stuff.
It's just great. Normal standard for us. Okay, good. I didn't know if there was any like kind of final thoughts or something that you just wanted to live in this conversation. No,
I feel like we covered so much. I feel really good about it. And I hope I love the way the marriage between mindset, gut, brain, nervous system comes into play. So I hope that we were able to really talk through that. Yeah, it's like the science behind it and the nitty gritty, but then how it kind of permeates to everything that we do when we're making choices for a healthier lifestyle. So I feel like we covered it. And I loved it. Good.
I love you. Well, and you have so many, tips, tactics, strategies, obviously your coaching, your community, you are a plethora of really valuable resources to anyone who wants to get really healthy, perhaps needs to heal their gut, having autoimmune issues, or just really wants to get into a better, healthier relationship, even with food. There's just so many reasons why people need to go and get dialed into you. So can you tell them where they can do that?
Absolutely. Yeah. Follow me on Instagram at
Best
Food
account.
by Marras, like the planet. Thanks, mama. And my blog, foodbymars.com. I'm always on there posting stuff, but Instagram is probably where I hang out the most. So feel free to DM me, check out my stuff, and keep in touch.
Okay. I love you.
Yeah.
To be continued always.
Thank you so much for having.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you so much for having
Thank you for coming back on. We'll do it again.
My pleasure.
Love you, mama.
Love you too. Bye.
Thanks so much for tuning into this episode, you guys. If you loved it, please share it on your social. Throw it up on your Instagram stories and tag me. I'm at Black Belt Beauty. I am also at Roxy Look, RoxyLook. I love connecting with you guys. This is a conversation that I want to just continue growing with you guys. So if you feel inspired to hit me up, do so in that space. I always enjoy hearing from you. If you'd like to support this podcast, you can do so by rating it and reviewing it via iTunes. It's such supportive help, you guys. It really helps the visibility of this podcast. So I appreciate and thank you in advance for doing that. And on that note, you guys, I'm signing off with all my love and always looking forward to catching you on the next.